perturbed about me asking him to be my vice president. I think that was like lower on the list of things that caught him off guard. It was the fact that I walked in with intelligence. So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and so many people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. When he didn't know what the lawyers is, you'll still have your lawyer list. And when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done, there were loyalists running up in the White House, right? And my question would be, why, when you had the chance, did you not free the January 6ers? And I came to him as someone who loves Trump, and I said, go and get Corey back. Go and get these people that the media tried to cancel and told you to step away from. He basically gives me this would-be mob-esque kind of story. Talking, Trump was some kid from the south side of Chicago trying to sound mobby or whatever. He goes into the story about all that he went through to get Alice Johnson out of jail and how he didn't do it for Kim, but he did it for me. But then he goes on to say that Kim is a you could tell her I said that. And I was thinking, like, that's the mother of my children. Since we know, and all the Christians in America that love Trump know that Trump is a conservative, we're going to demand that you hold all policies directly to the Bible. When Trump started basically screaming at me at the table, telling me I was going to lose, I mean, has that ever worked for anyone in history?
You're going to lose. Tell him he's going to lose.
I'm like, well, hold on, Trump. You're talking to Ye. Some kid from the south side of Chicago trying to sound mobby or whatever. He goes into the story about all that he went through.
Well. Welcome back to the Men on the Internet podcast. That was Kaney West 2 weeks ago explaining how his meeting with Trump went. Any words? Any thoughts?
Well, I think he's going to lose again. I just hope he gets his paperwork in on time.
Well, he did get 60,000 votes last time. If he got I don't know 80 million more, he would have won.
You got me there.
It was pretty close.
I can't see the fallacy in the logic.
Pretty close race there. 60,000 votes. He sounds upset. Sounds perturbed. Sounds
perturbed.
Not supported.
Sounds esoteric.
He sounds very esoteric.
Stop using words that I don't understand.
And then Trump wrote about Kanye. Of course, he wrote it on Truth Social.
Oh, Truth Social. What are those things called? Was he like the White House-ish parchment, where he sent out a memo kind of thing? Not a tweet.
Oh, and it's like from the desk of... Yeah. I don't know what that's called. But Trump wrote, "So I help a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black, yay, Kaney West, who has been decimated in his business and virtually everything else, and who has always been good to me by allowing his request for a meeting at Mar-a-Lago alone so that I can give him very much needed, quote unquote, advice. He shows up with 3 people, 2 of which I don't know, the other a political person who I haven't seen in years. I told him, don't run for office. A total waste of time. Can't win. Fake news went crazy." So Kaney West and Trump both announced recently that they are running for president once again in 2024. I'm going to throw it to you.
Oh, no. So, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't feel like voting anymore. I mean, the first time I did it, 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson because I'm libertarian. And then people started pissing me off. So I voted for Trump in 2020. Yes, relax. Calm yourself.
Thanks for watching us this far. I'm just kidding. Good.
Okay.
And I had my reasons. It wasn't just like, I'm going to vote for Trump because MAGA, blah, blah, blah. No, I had my reasons. But now it just seems so like going nowhere, one-sided, emotionally draining, all of it. It just feels like the more I invest in this and the more I try to talk to people about this, the worse it gets. People are going to think the way they want to think. People are going to get angry what they're going to angry about, but it just seems to be, not a worthwhile from me, a little man, a small person, not, a political commentator or a person of interest or anything like that. I'm just like, it's not worth it for me.
Did you vote in the 2020 election?
Yeah.
In the 2022 midterm.
I thought I did. I got
Voted
the
by mail is what it sounds like.
No, I did, and I was like, did I vote? Because I voted for LA Rick Caruso. Because I thought, he was good. My mom was even gonna vote for him. I'm like, okay, seems okay. My aunt, the DA, is gonna vote for him. I'm like, all right, seems like we're all on kind of the same page. And then everyone's like, never mind, Karen Bass. Like, why? Like, I like her. Why? Don't want to say.
Well, she's a genius.
Of course, yeah. She's never done anything bad ever.
I didn't say that.
I just hope they find the guns that got stolen from her house.
Gosh. Okay.
Anyway, I find it draining, and I realize nothing's ever going to really change. The only thing that changed with Trump is that we got to see a lot more. People were more interested in what was happening, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that happening, but people are getting identity centric with it. Like, I vote for Trump. Obviously, that makes me a bad guy in some people's book, or vice versa.
Sure. Yeah.
Depending where you are in the country. But I just don't like that anymore. I don't like that because, like, back in when Bush and Kerry were running, it's like, oh, you're voting for Kerry? I'm voting for Bush. I disagree with you. Now it seems to be like just way out there. We're so divided, and it's like it's not helping. So I hope Trump wins just for the sheer fact that people freak out, and I could just not care anymore.
So you're not going to vote 2024?
No, probably not.
You're not?
No.
Chris?
Hello. Yeah, I agree. Everyone's to the extremes now. If you're not with me, you're against me, and that's, just relax. You know what I mean?
Which pedo racist old man are you going to vote for this time?
Yeah, it's just, it's the rock and a hard place. You just know, like, perfect candidate, there never will be. Yeah, but never will. Everything's to the extremes, and I hate that. That's, like, really dumb. I will vote on the next major election. And
did you vote this year, 2022?
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know that I'll vote for Yay, but who knows? You might have a great campaign. Just
want to see the
topic.
Ads.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well. So a lot of people are saying that they're done with Trump. The Trump era of being able to grab everybody and get everybody excited is over. And it could be true. The way that Trump acts is no longer funny.
Yeah.
You know how it was like funny and he was making fun of people and it was fun and it pissed people off, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Now it's like he's completely unhinged as to who he goes after, and you can't build Rome without people. So when you lose the people, you lose your country. So for me, I actually think that policy-wise, his little team in 2016 didn't do the worst job, policy-wise. But his character really it got worse because obviously he's like jaded. He's jaded now. So this whole thing about him being the president sometimes doesn't really sound like it's about helping people. Yeah. It's more just like an ego thing. And I actually do think that the first time around he was trying to help people to boost his ego so that he can leave and say, I was the best that ever did it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even a politician and da-da-da. But now it just seems like I'm angry. Everybody's mad. And then the thing I really didn't like about the Trump era is how intense it became just being alive. Like everybody, everywhere, all the time was like Trump, the evil mob. And it's like, I really don't want to go through that again. I personally was hoping that he wasn't going to run. I don't need another 4 years of that. Just don't need it. I think that if, look, we're already here. We're already at the point, but I don't think he's going to make it past the primaries.
I'm not going to speak on it, and I will, like, I agree with you. Like, it was like people were having a definite intense emotional reaction to him in office. And for me, I was trying to be like unbiased majority of the time. And I'd say things like, recently the IRS came out that his tax plan helped out the middle class a lot more. Okay. And like, we're learning that, 4 years later, 5 years later. And people were like, and they still don't.
2 years later.
No, that was in 2018. I thought he implemented that.
Oh, okay. So 4 years later.
Yeah. So thank you. So like, even if it benefited people still have the taste like, oh, well, I just didn't like him personally. Yeah. Like he had that international, I guess, policy task force of like decriminalizing homosexuality throughout the world, getting to the UN, say, hey, let's work on this because it's a big issue for everybody, especially in America. Let's work on, not throwing gay people off of buildings in some countries. Let's stop doing that. Let's get past it. And I would tell people that who are LGBT or not, and they're like, well, it's not real. It's not a real thing. It's not a law he put into place. And it's like, yeah, but it's still not homophobic like people are making him out to be. And I don't think we'll get past that whole Pygmalion effect of like, oh, I don't like you because of this. Everything you do now, I don't like.
Yeah, look, I think at this point, everyone's aware that it's the attitude. It's the persona that comes with it. You can have good ideas and mean well, but if you're not somebody who people want to look at as their leader, then it'll be very difficult for you to do good things, even if you do good things. So I would actually really like a period in time where number one, the politicians don't make it seem like everything is falling apart all the time at every moment in time. Look, we done been through 3 greatest elections that could determine democracy in a row. We chose George W. Bush over Al Gore, and we're still here. Everybody calm down just a little bit. I understand that things affect people. I get that. I get that things affect people. But at the same time, oftentimes we revere too highly those who are granted the opportunity to give us their least. When you give that kind of power to people with pens and ideas to write things down, and they can change your life, you are actively ruining your own. So, I live in LA. I walk outside. I see the homeless, and they're spreading, and they're growing. I understand that things are getting more and more expensive. I understand inflation. I understand that it is difficult for companies, some to pay people what they believe that they should be paid. I understand that all of these things all happen at the same time, but the small group of people in Washington, D.C. will never solve all of those problems for you. They might potentially make some of them slightly less worse. But for the most part, the best thing you can do for your life is to take advantage of the power you have within.
Well, what makes more money, curing the disease or just temporarily setting it back?
Sure. But turning. This is what happened, I think, in 2009. Politics turned into identity, and it turned into the core of who you were, because everybody who is together, everybody together makes you realize that you don't necessarily need to lean upon a greater structure for you to thrive. Mm-hmm. So you have to start dividing people in order for people to find a problem. And when there's a problem, you look for the solution. Oftentimes, people don't look at themselves for the solution. They look at another person. And when Obama became president, it's not Obama's fault, but when he became president, a lot of the country tear apart in the middle because there were so many things happening at the same time. Financially, the country was in turmoil, and we have a black president. And because there's financial problems and people are looking for the second coming of Christ, and he doesn't look like you, and he's historically the lowest form of citizen in a country that kind of looks at y'all, you know what I mean? Now, anything that doesn't lift you up the way you think it's supposed to is looked at radically awful. So it could be a mixture of all these things put together of saying, please, somebody save us. And when they can't do that, because they can't, you have to look back at the ideal of what the country was built upon, which was private property and the ability to build for yourself. Mm-hmm. Today is the day that is offered to you as the most privileged point in time in modern history. You can start a business from your phone. I know a guy who was buying clothes from the store where people are, secondhand store. Salvation Army type stuff. And he would make an outfit, and he didn't have enough money to pay models. So he would model the clothes and then sell it on Instagram. This before it was shoppable. A brand bought his Instagram page for like $1.2 million. I have never seen dude ever again. And he was like 24. Just saying, you have the ability within yourself to privatize your problems and also privatize your solutions. Mm-hmm. I veered over into this direction because we are looking at all of these idols to solve all of these problems that we have. Granted, some of the problems were created by them, so you could be upset enough to vote them in. But if you think about it, we have 60-year-old problems that still haven't been able to be solved. So why are we still leaning on these people?
It's the paycheck to paycheck mentality, I think. Which is not anything against anyone doing that. I'm talking about paycheck to paycheck in life as a whole. So, like, I grew up, I won't say I have problems, but I said I grew up in a place of, like, it was just no for everything. Even if it was food. I was like, can I have this? No. We don't have money for it. I'm like, okay. That's how I handle things. Just, no, can't afford it anyway, not even going to bother. I did not want to live my life in the future like that. So I put things in place as a child of, like, even if things go terribly wrong for me, if I lose it all, I can bounce back right away. I don't think a lot of people do that anymore. I think they say, I'll live paycheck to paycheck and figure it out tomorrow, which is not bad, but then something bad happens and they're square zero, I'd say. They have nothing. And
are you about to promote Bitcoin?
No. No, I've talked to Chris. I said, if all my friends, because we always talk about Bitcoin, like, what if you lose it all? Like, so what? What if I do lose it all? Who cares? I'll start again. I don't care about it. It's just something that, let's say it does take off and I do get a shit ton of money. Good. I'm glad I invested in it.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
If somebody says, hey, Sam, you are financially doing okay because of white privilege, what's your response to that?
I say, prove it. I ask, prove why me as a white person, why I'm doing so well. Decisions I've made in life have not been because of my race. And I've been pulled over 7 times in my life, right? I've never gotten a ticket.
Oh, well.
I have been polite with every single officer. Some of them been
Now, hold
rather
on.
aggressive.
You definitely didn't get a ticket because you was, I mean,
I got pulled over in Arizona, and they were doing their absolute best to try and get me. But I was hyper polite, I was hyper respectful. I explained my issues that I had. Said, sorry, that doesn't match up. I know it looks bad. And I did every single test they wanted. They said, well, hey, we're just doing our jobs. Like, no, it's fine. Like, it's okay. I never once pulled. Sorry.
what were you doing? Speeding?
No, I set a tail light out.
Oh.
So they did the drunk driving thing. Oh, they just tried everything. And they actually arrested a girl walking down the street who was drunk, who gave them attitude, and they arrested her. Not me. She was white too. So people make choices, and they don't think about the consequences down the road. Like, if you drink and smoke and do drugs and all these things, I know addiction's a problem, but that's going to negatively affect you down the road and then some.
Did you have both parents growing up?
Yes. There are issues, of course, but like
I don't like that you looked at me. Why are you looking at me, bro? That's fucked up.
so I
He was
grew up-
like, "What you think about that?" Damn, homie.
His dad for sure came back from the store. I'm just
Every
saying.
time. What a record.
sometimes it was. I'll say it was intermittent, but mostly my mom was the breadwinner.
He intermittently came back from the store?
Intermittently, yeah.
You know,
What does that mean?
Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't.
intermittent means every now and again.
Every now and
Like there's space. You know how
Don't mansplain
intermittent-
him.
I'm just
He
saying.
can figure it out.
So your dad would leave.
Well, yeah, they had issues, so
Okay.
like, who doesn't? I'm not going to say like, oh, they had issues. Blah, blah. That's a
Well, I asked that question because they say that if you had both parents, you most likely had.
no. I benefited from that, definitely, but I benefited because my dad put me to work using a chainsaw at age 7 and 8 that other kids don't get. But people are like, oh, child using a chainsaw, child doing labor, that's bad. Like, no, you're just stupid. Like, you got to do things for your kids that will set them up for success later.
Yeah, but you not getting a ticket 7 times is definitely white privilege.
Is it though?
Yeah, because I'm gonna say this. I've definitely been pulled over many times, and I haven't gotten a ticket every single time, but I've gotten some wild tickets. I got a ticket one time. I was going 30 in what's that place with people? Runyon. No, it was not Runyon,
Runyon
but
Canyon?
it was like
Mulholland?
yeah, one of them
like that?
areas where you're supposed to really go 20.
Where you were
right.
filming Uncle Ed's Bucket List or what?
No, this is like 2013. And I was going 10 miles over the speed limit, and it was considered a national place. Yeah,
Oh,
national
okay.
park. And I got a $1,000 ticket.
Shit.
And I had to do driving school. And I went to Coachella one time, and I didn't even do a U-turn. I just pulled and parked in the cones, and I got a $385 ticket.
Well, I won't speak on that, but I'll say, was there any kind of altercation, verbally or physically?
No, I've never had an altercation with the cop. Even one time, I'm gonna tell you this story.
Go ahead. Speak on it.
After I finished making Pros, you remember Pros, the
remember
short film?
Pros.
Made a short
That
film
was the
called
first
Pros.
project I ever worked on you with. Oh, no,
first one?
Mickey was the first one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The Hitman one?
No, it
that's
was
all
like
about
I was like some guy like low-key homeless, whatever.
Okay.
So I made this movie, and then the girl who was acting in the movie asked me to go to the bar afterwards, and I went, and we were just chilling. It was a fine time, and then there was this small white lady there, and we like kicked it off. She liked hip hop, and we just had like cool conversation. She definitely like drank just a little bit too much, and I didn't drink at all. And she was like, "Oh, how am I gonna get home?" Blah blah blah. I was like, "I'll just drive you. It's fine. It's not a big deal." She was super cool, very kind. I took her and I drove her home. We sit in front of her house, and that's when I found out that she had a boyfriend. And so she was like, you know, tempted, I guess, but you know, that's the alcohol talking or whatever. But so we sit in front of the house, and she's like, I kind of don't want to go inside just yet. I just want to kind of savor the moment. So she was telling me about her favorite hip hop songs and all this stuff, and out of nowhere, blah 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 blah, on the side of my window, the side of a flashlight is beating on the side of my window. Then you see those heavy flashlight beams come from both sides, both windows, the driver's side and the passenger side. Mind you, we're just sitting in the car. I put the window down. That cop said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, I'm totally, everything is fine. We're just sitting here talking about music." The cop next to her was like, "I said, are you okay?" I was like, everything he says, don't talk. You don't say anything. You, ma'am, are you okay? Was he doing something to you? She's like, no, we're sitting in the car talking about music. They had me get out the car, sit on the sidewalk, put me in cuffs. They searched the car, and she had to say over and over and over. I never spoke. After that, like, I never said anything. And then once she finally, maybe like 10 minutes later, she was finally like, everything is fine. They were like, no, okay. And then I got back in the car, and they were like, all right, you have a good night. The side of my window had scratches on it. This was my 2000 Camry. Side of my window had scratches on it.
Vintage.
Yeah.
Fucking police.
And I didn't do anything. Now, I didn't get a ticket or anything, but I was in cuffs on the ground.
Still, the fact that they had to do all of that.
That's like crazy.
Now that whole circumstance sounds at 100 from the get go, and I don't know how I would have handled that. You got me there. I don't know, but all my situations, even if the cop did come up, one guy's like, "Hey, dumbass," and I was like, "Officer, I'm so sorry. That was my fault completely." And he was like, "Oh," he saw my stickers from the base. So, "Oh, you come back from base?" Like, "Yeah, sorry, just long week." And he's like, "All right, dipshit, like, don't do that again." I just pulled out in front of him too fast. And that was the only one in California, I'll say that. The rest of them were out of state. So that's part of it.
I had never been pulled over for anything. I can honestly say that. Like, I've never just been pulled over, ever. I've only gotten parking tickets, but that's because I legitimately can never read those stupid signs.
They do have words on them.
It's on
Yeah,
purpose.
so they do have words.
It's confusing on purpose. I'll say that. I've gotten plenty of parking tickets.
Yeah, see, so.
Yeah, being pulled over is not fun. I've been pulled over a bajillion times. One time I raced the cop. And then she pulled me over and was like, all right, don't do that again. I was like, yeah, but that was fun. But so I've had great encounters with police, but I've also had real funky ones where I was just like, when I was making All About the Money, we did a scene in the car, drove around the neighborhood, and we had a light in the car, like lighting the car, and we had the cameras stuck to the windshield. So, so we had maybe 4 cameras, 2 in the front, and then on the side, we drove around where I live now, same neighborhood, and the cop stopped us. He put me, David, and Bam on the sidewalk down, and he was like putting us down on the sidewalk, but super nice about it. He was like, "So what are you guys doing?" Handcuffs clicking and stuff. He's like, "What are you guys?" And we're like, "We're just making a movie." And he's like, "Oh, is it gonna be on Netflix or And he was like super nice about it, but at the same time, like, he getting us down.
Arresting you.
And he was like, afterwards, after he's done checking the car, because they always gotta check the car. I might have something in there.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, well, okay. Well, you just be careful."
Great.
So it's like, I'm not the biggest person to just like jump into white, what do they call it, white supremacy or white privilege. It actually kind of gets on my nerves when some people look at somebody else's hard work and success, and then they just immediately say, "Oh, it's white privilege." Because when people hear about certain things that I've done, and I was like 24 making videos for Coachella, no one ever says that's black privilege.
Right.
Nobody ever says, when I was making Toyota commercials, nobody ever said anything about that. So I'm not the first person to jump on it, but I do recognize in certain circumstances.
And it does happen, but I don't call it a universal, like, oh, white privilege. There's got to be something tagged to it. There's got to be money.
Yeah, I mean, the Jews.
Anyway, we're done.
Thanks for watching us so far. We're surprised we made it this far.
I am just kidding. I'm not yay.
I'll tell everyone Kelby's privilege that he has. He can walk into a room and everyone's like, I want to talk to that person. I want to talk to Kelby. All the girls are like, Kelby, where's my hug? Oh, your name's Kelby? I want to hug you right now. Kelby will walk into a room and everyone will want to be around him, except for last week. That was odd.
What happened last week?
The white people, they were quite rude. The yoga people.
They did not want to talk to me. They actually spoke to me a lot.
No, but they were being very rude though. You command a certain presence in a room. Can I say that?
Whatever.
Kelby commands a certain level of respect, dominance, entering a room.
No, he's just annoying, is what it is.
It
you
is
walk
annoying,
anywhere
but
in the
still,
fucking place.
it still happens though.
And you're like, shut up.
What are you talking about, Sabalos? What are you
You're
talking
like,
about?
damn.
There, I'll do it. Pass me. I want to talk to some ladies. and it will work.
That's what I do.
That's
And it'll work.
100%. I've seen you rub your hands all the fucking time.
I'm about to. That's just me putting lotion on.
I'm going to do you in 2 words. You ready?
All right, go ahead. Hold on.
You
Okay.
ready? Yeah, I mean, you see, that's Kelby. That's Kelby. You can see the hand movements when you say that. Yeah, I mean,
That's funny.
I've had to spend years cultivating this. What I got right now. Kelby's like, I'm just born this way.
it's just like comes
I didn't go to
naturally.
school.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
That's esoteric.
you see, I'm telling you.
What does that mean? Anyway,
It's funny. So I went to Utah.
Go ahead.
I was standing in H&M.
I saw you living it up in Utah. I was like, that's good for you, man.
The whitest
Chilling
place in the
it out.
country.
I go there all the time.
Yeah, but you was
know.
like having a good time, chilling with the family dog, and
Yes.
Dog and the guns and the whites.
I do shoot over them.
Even I'm
Nice.
skeptical of Utah. I'm like, it's kind of.
I like Utah. I think it's a nice place. And I
it's
saw
cool.
a lot of black people.
yeah.
They're there now.
Those were imported black people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're there. They're cool. But I was in H&M with this grandma, and it was Black Friday. We are at this long line, and she just turns to me and is just starting to talk, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna say something funny. So of course I just like make
Time to just be me.
yeah. So I just say something, and then her like 30 grandkids come,
Right.
and they're in front of me. They all have items. So then her children come. So like the grandkids come
Right.
and the children come.
Right.
And they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I really don't care. There's already 89 people ahead of us. We're in the back of the store and we're wrapped around the store.
All right.
So I'm going to be here for an hour, whatever. We get to the front and I'm making so many jokes. They're having the time of their lives. They turn to me and say, you know, our daughter's getting pretzels right now. I said, I heard about that.
I've heard about these things.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get me some. She says, no, you're not.
Oh.
We're getting you some.
Yeah.
I was like, no. It's totally fine. I can afford it. No problem. They said, all right. Like 8 minutes later, they come to me with the biggest cup of pretzels.
Nice.
Pretzel bites.
Pretzel bites.
I have ever seen. And they were like, this is for you.
We want you to have this from the bottom of our hearts. That's why they call him Kerbin Johnston, because he blends in with all the families.
Yes, I could not. Well, I could believe it. But
I was there. It was pretty great.
But I really appreciate it. I don't know what it is about me, but a lot of people do just come and start talking to me.
Yeah.
That is a part of my life.
So are you convinced now that racism is over?
Well, That's an interesting question. So racism is still alive.
Alive and well.
Okay. However, when racism wore a different mask and when it existed in a different form, it never stopped black people from figuring it out. And though we have to go through enormous pain and suffering and trials and tribulations, it's never going to be the reason. Racism is never going to be the reason why we fail. Because we're just greater than it.
I like that.
Hit the yellow button.
So there's that. I do not rub my hands and say, we about to go talk to some guy else.
No, but you do
that.
say,
You do.
yeah, me.
Yeah.
I do say, yeah, me.
So that's your persona. Like that's what your inner monologue is. Like I can talk to any of these girls and get the girls like they're texting him, they're talking to him, and
I
it's
don't
like
know. I really don't know what you're talking about.
he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
He's a fallible man. He has
What
student
is
loans.
fallible? What does fallible mean?
You know, you have faults.
You got your faults.
Thank you.
You have faults. He's got
But
student loans.
The ladies,
I do.
the ladies love it. They love it.
They actually like you.
No. Here's the thing about me.
They're always like, he has the arms of rims.
Of rims?
Yeah, like
Oh, nice.
24 inch.
Like 24s.
You know what I mean?
I am so weird. Like it's not even
You
funny.
are. But you don't
So-
show when you're quiet.